everyone has egos. We have them as parents, we have them as coaches, we have egos, and players are no different. And especially growing up, when you're playing the game, who doesn't want to be the star, right? When you're the best player on the ice, there's something really cool about that. There really is. And if you can consistently be the best person on the ice, it's really cool. Now, as I'm thinking about this, the best person on the ice doesn't mean that the person's got 4 points a game. The best person on the ice could be doing a lot of different things, right? Sometimes you're the best person on the ice without scoring. We just had a phone call with someone a few minutes ago, and the coach was telling them that, right? And the best guy, coach, player on the ice the last bunch of games. This is a junior player, and he wasn't even showing him the clips of his the points that he got. He goes, "This is what makes you the best." And I think people that play hockey have to understand that. Like this, the thing is, there are going to be kids. It's a really. This is another interesting thing to understand. You get to junior hockey, NHL, even that would be the bigger jump. But you would think that playing in the OHL, CHL, you're a 19-year-old player that scored some goals. Let's say 19, 20, over age 18. You would think that automatically, at 18, 19 years old, you'd be getting more points, right? And it wouldn't. And really, truly, tell me what you think about this. Would you expect a 16-year-old kid, even though he's smaller, maybe slick and stuff, would you expect him to get a lot of points in the OHL or CHL his first year? How does it happen? I'm asking that question like it happens all the time. You get a rookie come in playing against a really good team, and like a rookie player that's 16 years old that comes in and gets 30 goals, 20 goals. That's a lot of goals in junior and is playing good and making plays. It's like it's weird, but my point to that is that there's some people that is what they do. They just do it, right? Some guys can get 20 when they're 18 years old, 19 years old, and maybe they will never get it again. Maybe they'll get 30 the next year. Some guys hit their stride at 19, 20 years old in junior, but there's kids that come into that league at 15, 16, and they can just put the puck in the net. They just do it. And no matter what the other top six guys do on that team, older, whatever, they can't do it like this guy does. Right? That's your driver. That's your guy. That's what he does. And that guy gets they get away with things. I've seen this I see this all the time. That person might not have to do as heavy back checking, get in the corners quite as much. That might be part of his game, but like the leash is longer. The leash of being defensively sound is not the same as the next guy, right? It could be the turnover that the third line center makes is going to be more exposed than the first line center that gets the goals if he has a turnover. So that guy could have two turnovers. The other guy could have two turnovers to one good play. As long as that one play is good, that it's almost like it's overlooked. That's the star. That's what they get to do. And I'm not saying they get to do that. It's just kind of like the way it is. They get the glory. They get the glory. I don't want to say this the wrong way. They get the glory. They get the articles in the newspaper. They get their names splashed all over the place. It's going to be Boston versus whoever, and you get the two stars matchup. That's what it is. But that's not what it is. But that's what they like to do, right? So if you have a jealous bone in your body, you don't understand the concept of team, that could bother you. Like if you're the second center, or you're a couple goals behind this guy every year, or you start saying, well, if I had more ice, if I had more power play, this, that, the other thing, you could start getting jealous and not understand your role, right? But we just have to. But if we can just have a good understanding of what our role is, and understand that it's a whole bunch of different units that make a team, right? It's critical. It's critical to understand. Go ahead.
And I think and something that's important to understand too is like on that thread, if you're a guy that you are the guy that can just score. Like I'm thinking of a guy right now that you've worked with before, and like he's one of these guys. He's got a whole boatload of goals this year with the team he's playing for, and like I know what I think of him as a player, and I'm like it's unbelievable that this guy just keeps getting chance after chance after chance. But it's like then on second thought, like along these lines of this conversation, it's like it's not unfair because he does something else that compensates. So if you take this extreme and this extreme, it cancels out, let's say, right? If you take the next guy down, that they can't reach this extreme of positive, but they can still reach this extreme of negative, well, they don't have the cancel out factor, right? And so In minor hockey, less so because you're trying to teach good habits and all that stuff. But even as parents and coaches, when you're framing it to your parents or setting the tone for your team, it's like it's not unfair that the top end guys that do that job, there's different expectations and different responsibilities, and you can say like I expect this across the entire team, and for certain things that makes sense. But if I get a kid that let's say he takes higher risk plays, but he converts on 15% of them and they work out to get goals and win games, that's worth something. So if they try it other times and it costs us something, or it's a negative, it's like, yeah, we still need the positive though. Like the positive is still impactful for us winning games. So there's a risk reward thing that coaches do that isn't often, I think, valued by people watching, because it makes it easy to look at that guy and say, hey, well, if my kid turned the puck over like that, he wouldn't play. It's like, well, yeah, but your job, and this could be on the coaches for not explaining or whatever, wherever the disconnect is, like I'm putting that aside. It's like your job is not the same as that guy. So the expectations are different because your jobs are different, right? Your job description is different, you know? So if I bring it back to the standard job environment, if you work at a plant or something like that, like I don't expect the technician to design the robot, right? And I don't expect the designer to get in there with his oil rag and fix it later. There's a different jobs, but we're contributing to the same team mission, you know? So I think if you frame it a little bit that way for yourself as well, it's like, it's not unfair, you know? It's not unfair that happens. There's a line, obviously, where it can be unfair, it can be ridiculous or whatever, for sure. But in its purest form, I don't think that it's unfair.
Yeah,
you know,
and the line is like, I got an itchy eye here for some
yeah.
reason, so sorry to gross anyone out. Could get worse. Right?
Yeah.
The line on those guys is that if you don't produce, then that's gone. So
Yeah.
the pressure is a little bit higher. That everyone's
That's the
about
thing.
how many points did you get?
Yeah.
How many offensive chances did you create? That's all that matters
Yeah,
in the eyes of other people, right?
yeah, for sure.
And it's important to have those guys on your team, obviously.
Yeah, the second thread on that too is like you mentioned, if you're the second centerman and you're looking up and you're a couple goals behind and whatever, there's also like something to be said about when like competitiveness gets negative now, when it like negatively impacts you. I had this conversation like several weeks ago with a player, and he was kind of doing this comparison thing, and he all but explicitly said like, I need to do better than him, because if I don't, then I'm not going to get further along, you know? And that's a very common mindset. Like, and at least this kid was, I don't know open enough to say it out loud, because I know a lot of kids think it, but there's enough for everybody to be successful in their, in their domain of skill or where they're valuable, you know? So I think like that piece of it too is like, there's a conversation there of like competitiveness for the sake of competitiveness, or to the point where now it starts to negatively impact you. It's like, Jesus, man, like that's something that needs to be a conversation as well. Like being able to gear the competitiveness where it's appropriate, and be able to back off and let it go when it's not actually going to be helpful for you. You know, like that's an interesting piece of it too.